CSGO edition of our esports breakdown here at FSI. We had a couple days off. We are back at it, but we have not stopped delivering content to our Discord members. And I've also had some just short little write-ups posted on my Twitter account as well, if you've gotten a chance to see those. So we are jumping back into it. We have this diverse slate of we have the Oceania matchup. We have two of our European Blast matchups, and then we have the DreamHack Asia slate as well. So we're going to go through the odds first, as we always do. We're going to look at the players that we're thinking about targeting here. And then hopefully that information alone will certainly help you with your builds in terms of building something optimal, or if you want to go GPP cash route. I think there's the builds are pretty, at least the starting point of a cash build seems pretty easy here in terms of who I want to target. But let's get into it. All right, so the two European games here from the Blast tournament is ENTS and Mouse Sports. Mouse Sports coming in as a -140 favorite. Fnatic against Vitality, basically a pick'em. So I wouldn't put a lot of stock into like Fnatic barely being favored here. I think this will be heavily dependent on what maps they get. Vitality's been kind of up and down, losing to the best of one to Saw. I think they held on today, but Mouse Sports even losing some ground right now, actually. So I expect this one to be pretty close to a pick'em as well. So when you're thinking about targeting players in those games, either you're taking a really strong stand on one side of the game, or you're just using raw player projections, just assuming that the matchup is close and that the player would perform well. Then our Asia DreamHack slate here is VC Gaming versus Beyond, and this is clearly the biggest favorite of the slate. VC Gaming at -950. And then we have another true pick'em between Avant and Order. Oceania DreamHack Master Slate is basically a pick'em. So I think in cash games, it's pretty clearly what team you want to probably get three of, and that would be VC. And then after that, I think it really just comes down to picking which players you think are going to project best in these close matchups. So let's start with Order and Avant. So if I'm just going to look at Order first, kind of go team by team. Alistar had a phenomenal game last night or this morning. Rique has also been playing really well. Valiant, Astulio. I mean, all these guys are definitely in play. Now, with this game being more of a pick'em, I don't really love getting down here in this range unless you really like one player as a one-off or something. If you're going to one-off or play somebody here, I do really like Alistar or Rique. I don't consider Jorah really ever. Avant here, Sterling is by far their best player, and then it does drop off pretty significantly after that. So again, in a matchup that's a pick'em, you're either going to get the best player for Avant Sterling at 8,600, or you can take the other side and get Alistar at $1,000 cheaper. So I think that would be my lean in that matchup. I think in GPPs, you pick a side and you stack, and hopefully maybe they go off. You hit the winner. Let's go to Mouse and ENTS. On the Mouse side, Rops 8,400, finally kind of priced appropriately here. He has been just insanely consistent win or lose for Mouse. So I think them being a small favorite, I think he's definitely viable at 8,400. Frozen has been kind of up and down. Same with Woxic. Woxic on the AWP can certainly put up those massive rounds, but can disappear pretty quickly too against a pretty good opponent. And Alu is usually on the AWP for ENTS. So I think that if that's going to be more of a 1v1 battle, I do prefer probably fading Woxic in this type of situation. But I think he's always too cheap relative to his talent and his potential. It's just if that's a place that, Mouse is a small favorite right now that you could potentially look to build, I think that any of those three players are certainly viable for Mouse. On ENTS, Alu obviously is always our favorite target. Coming in as an underdog and priced more than ZywOo, I'm going to find it probably pretty tough to get to Alu here on this slate. I actually prefer Yampy for how cheap he is at 5,400 if I just want a pure punt, because I think he does have some really nice upside. So that would kind of be my take here. I'm not really thrilled about any of the other three mid-range players here. Let's move on to Beyond and VC. VC seems pretty underpriced to me. And typically for VC, I'm just targeting the top three. I don't really think Almond should be the most expensive. I think it should be Jam Young and then Kaz or Kaj, however you say his name. But those three in general are my favorite three to target there. And I think that would be a really good cash spot to start with those three, or taking one of them out and going down to Jacquin, who's been playing better recently. If you look at the longer the stats you look out, the more clearly that these three are the best players on the team, but he has been playing better as of late. Advent is below half a kill per round, so I don't really suggest punting with him, even in the situation that they go 2-0, because even in those two maps, you're probably looking at 10 points maybe. That's probably stretching it. So even with that bonus, you're looking at a 40-point max, which is not really something I love. So VC and cash, I mean, it's pretty straightforward to me. VC, get stack 3 VC and cash, probably picking 3 out of the top 4, whatever kind of works in your salary. I do really like either Jam or Kaz or Kaj here as a captain role too, is a little bit of a discount if you need that extra salary. All right, in the last game, Vitality and Fnatic. Zaiwu, I think, as always, will be a popular selection, and it's warranted. I mean, he played really well today. Best of 3 maps just give these elite players more of an opportunity to widen their fantasy point differential from the rest of the field. So I think Zaiwu plus VC is definitely where I would start in cash games. And Vitality is basically a pick'em. So, I mean, they're not an underdog here. You're not paying up for an underdog. It's merely, equal on both sides. And then we see Fnatic being priced next. Actually, the next 4 players are Fnatic, which I think is reasonable. I think as we see, especially in closer matches, it even becomes harder to predict which Vitality player is even relevant, if any. So I think, Shox played really well today, but played pretty poorly before that. Masuda was on a little bit of a run, hasn't played really well since then. RPK was bad the last couple of games. So I think here Crims I actually do like from the Fnatic side. And when you play Zaiwu for Vitality, he, like him and Simple, are guys that I'm willing to play as a one-off and still take another player from the other side. Or consider taking another player or 2 from the other side, because it doesn't, with how large his market share of kills are for the team, that I think there's still enough fantasy value even on the other side of the matchup to find without negatively correlating a ton. Zaiwu is a lot of times the last man standing, so all of his guys went down before him, or he's one of the last 2, or so. And he's also racking up those kills. So Crims I really like at 7,400. Brawlin is too cheap here at 8,000. Flesha is kind of the middle one that I tend to pass on unless I'm 3-man stacking them. And JW is too map dependent for me to try to pick what games he's going to do really well at with the AWP. He's just not as consistent as some of our other European snipers like Zaiwu. So that's kind of where I would start in cash. I think certainly in GPP, like stacking the top 3 Fnatic and then, even stacking the top 3 Mouse, I think is probably something you can even do as long as you go cheap enough at captain. Otherwise, you could, choose a side of Order and Avant, which I think I still kind of prefer the Order side a little bit more. So, I mean, you can get Alistar and Rikke as a cheap 2-man stack and then potentially stack them once more with somebody else. But again, that's kind of where I'm at. If you believe in Mouse, they're cheap as a favorite. Mouse, besides Rops, usually scares me, but I think it's somewhere that you could definitely go in cash as taking a favorite. But like I said, optimal and cash lineups tomorrow, I am going to be starting with VC, likely 3 of them plus Zaiwu. and then figure out probably just underpriced players that I think would fit the rest of my build, depending on who I use at captain. So hopefully our CSGO edition helps you build your lineup here that locks in approximately 5.5 hours. So this will be a quick turnaround today. But be on the lookout for other content. Join our Discord channel for core plays for every single slate for CSGO. League of Legends is also being posted by our man Eddie Kruger. We did record our Call of Duty session for what was supposed to be today, but that did get postponed due to the protesting and rioting in Minnesota, even though it is online, but it is rescheduled for next weekend. So we will get that posted this week. So be on the lookout for that. Hit that subscribe button, give us a like, and win some cash.